Welcome to Atlas Leadership Academy, where our goal is to offer world-class leadership to influence worldwide change. My name is William King. I am a PhD candidate in business leadership and the CEO of Atlas Realty Group. Additionally, I am a Maxwell Leadership Facilitator, Speaker, and Coach.
And my name is Marianne Owen. I am the Executive Vice President of Atlas Leadership Academy and the Director of Marketing and Branding at Atlas Realty Group. We are very excited about today. We will be discussing how to lead well and get promoted. We have 3 points that will help you lead well in your organization as well as get promoted. So we're going to dive into the first key point, which starts with a question. So the first question would be, what are the challenges of leadership development? What would you say is a challenge in leadership development in an organization, William?
Well, to start off, developing leaders is already challenging enough.
Correct.
And that's because a lot of leaders already have X amount of experience, and so we already have a certain biases towards being a leader. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the main challenges that I think everyone can agree upon is subordinate well-being. That's one of the things that I believe that more leaders need to focus on.
Okay, so can you expound on that a little bit more? Subordinate well-being.
Yeah, well, because everyone pretty much has a different set of needs, and everyone has a different set of wants, and then everyone is satisfied differently.
Okay.
So as a leader, it's important that we understand everyone's needs and wants and points of satisfaction in order for the entire, I would say, body of people that we're leading to be satisfied as a whole. Mm-hmm. And that also builds your culture, which is another challenge of leadership development, which is a consistent culture.
Correct.
Because with the amount of people that we tend to lead in our organizations, people change, culture change. When your culture changes within an organization, it shows a shift in your leadership style.
I don't know if the culture of the organization would necessarily have to change just because people change. Like the culture of the organization should be established, and that's the culture, and people kind of like integrate into that. Would you say that?
I agree. You're referring to people coming into the organization, but ultimately people make up the culture. So if everyone or people are constantly changing, wouldn't the culture change? And that's the challenge of leadership development.
Well, right.
It's having a consistent culture, right?
Well, that would be the challenge of leadership, to make sure that the culture of the organization is established. Because let's say the culture is, okay, our culture is fun, family, future, friendship,
Right.
And if, like, let's say there's a leadership change and they say, okay, now I don't particularly care about family, so does that mean they take away family? Or because the organization is rooted and founded in those cultural things that they would have to assimilate to it? It's like, well, you don't believe in family, but the culture that's established does.
Right. So it may be more important to weed out those individuals that doesn't necessarily match your culture, is what you're saying?
Maybe it's that, yeah.
I think that that's important as well. However, if X amount of people are starting not to match the culture, then we'll have an organization with no subordinates.
Very true. So there would be a slight culture shift.
Right. But that's why it's also important to recruit and retain people. Right. And as you continue to retain people, you have to constantly remind people of the company culture. Leaders have to do a great job of putting the company culture out for the masses to understand. Right. And that's by way of doing events within the organization, or sending out emails reminding people of the company culture.
Right. Having strong marketing.
Strong marketing of the company culture, because marketing external to your organization is just as important as marketing internal to your organization. And that's ultimately going to build tenureship within your organization with your people.
Right.
But I think it's very challenging to maintain a consistent culture overall, because people are constantly coming and going.
That's true. And then, like you were saying earlier, people have so many different personalities,
right,
and things like that. So that could definitely cause a culture to be, shaken, have to be shifted in order to accommodate certain people, or even maybe there's a vision change. So maybe we started off with one vision,
correct,
in the organization, and then now we're shifting to not necessarily a new vision, but maybe a higher or an elevated vision. And so the means change, the culture has to shift in order to elevate.
How does AI play into all of this? Because that's another challenge of leadership development, is understanding artificial intelligence and the attack that it may have on employment.
Automations. So how does that play in? Well, I think that could definitely cause a lot of people to be fearful because, like, well, am I going to be replaced? Is my job going to be taken away? Because now there is artificial intelligence that would, basically kind of supplement or replace what I do.
Right.
So that could kind of, be an attack on the culture because then it brings in fear. But it can also be good. There's also great things about AI to where it does automate some things, at some menial tasks and things like that. So I would really think that as long as AI is used the right way, it can supplement your business as opposed to bring fear and, dependency,
right,
let's say, on it, so that doesn't chase people away or doesn't make people feel like, they don't have value.
Right. Understood.
Yeah.
I think if people started to focus more on themselves and being a better leader, I don't think AI can ever replace them.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Because AI is great. I'm not taking anything away from it, However, at the end of the day, humans love talking to humans. So every time I call the famous satellite provider that most people within America use, those people, the first thing they say is, how can I help you? And I say, customer service. And then the AI says, well, you can tell me your problem and I can try to fix it. And my response is customer service.
Right.
So naturally, people want to talk to people.
Yes.
So if you develop yourself as a better leader, I don't think you should worry about being replaced, but that's also one of the challenges of leadership development is understanding AI and how to be better than AI.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying smarter. I said better.
Better.
You know?
Yes.
The next challenge of leadership development is going to be working with remote subordinate workers.
It's a big topic right now because, most companies after COVID, and now everybody is back to work, they're trying to justify, business needs.
Right. There's a lot of virtual teams.
Correct. Like, COVID has taught us like, hey, we can work from home.
Correct.
And then a lot of subordinates have realized it's like, well, what is the point of me coming to the office if I can do my job and do it effectively, maybe even more so effectively at the house? Whereas some business owners is like, yeah, but we need you all to come back into the office because there is a thing, to where we're talking about camaraderie and then, coming together, meeting of the minds in the office. It does make a difference. So it's a huge topic right now to where there's people, it's like, I'd rather work remote. Some people rather come into the office. Some people are hybrid and they're like, I don't understand the point of being hybrid because, there's only like 2 or 3 people whenever I come into the office. So what are your thoughts on remote work?
Technology has allowed us as leaders to maintain control of remote workers. This is why we have technologies like Zoom.
Yes.
And also like FaceTime and Workplace and Skype. I think that leaders can still maintain control of remote workers as long as we continue to stay in front of them and don't become a text message or email.
So you said maintain control. Can you expand on that a little bit? What do you mean? Because that sounds...
Developing others.
Okay, there we go.
When I say control, I mean allowing the person to continuously do their job and develop them as well.
Got it. Okay, got it.
Leaders need to keep the personality inside the job instead of allowing the remote situation to become a remote leader. By constantly staying in front of your employees, you can maintain, a sense of control of that population.
Right.
And so therefore, you know exactly how Lisa is doing with her children, or what's going on inside of Johnny's life to where he has to take a week off of work or whatever the case may be.
Right.
I firmly believe as long as you treat people as people, then you would definitely become a better leader.
For sure.
And most importantly, treat others how you want to treat yourself, how you want to be treated, So as long as we don't take the human aspect out of working and we understand that people love people, people love respect, people love communication,
right.
The basic fundamental things of just being a human, as long as we do those things and continuously improve those things, I don't necessarily think virtual teams are a hindrance towards leadership.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree. I feel like some of the best leaders have probably come up, through remote working because now they have to maintain and manage themselves.
Right.
And, the more that they have done that, then they're able to, be more confident in front of a camera, whereas maybe they didn't feel like they can do that in person. You know what I mean?
Understood.
So I know I personally have benefited
from
remote working. Yeah.
It's never been a thing for me, but I like to try it one day.
Yeah.
You know. Now, the second thing we have to understand as it relates to leading well and getting promoted within your organization is understanding the most effective method for developing your leadership skills.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's 4 points to that. The first point is understanding multi-generational workforce. That has become very apparent in the last 3 to 5 years within corporate America, where a lot of companies are experiencing the newer generation of workers compared to the baby boomers.
Right.
You know? And now those two different generations are being intermingled, and you as a leader have to understand how to lead all of them.
Right.
You know?
Because there's some people, as we would say, is old school and
Correct.
then do things their way as it was, taught to them when they first came on the job scene, whereas there's people that is new school and they're learning, technology and how to utilize technology a lot faster and, more to their advantage. But it is far different than the old school methods. And then there's the people that's in between that can utilize both.
I think it's important that we find the commonalities.
Absolutely.
Within the multi-generational workforce. And if you can find the commonality between two different types of generation, I think you'd be much more effective as a leader.
Right.
Because then you can go off of one baseline, because the different generations have different styles, different motivations,
right,
different technical competencies. So find a commonality between everybody. And I think you can just build from there.
Absolutely. And it's really, like you were saying, as a leader, it's really important to find that commonality because, of course, when people do things differently and it's all like the same job, workflow, or whatever, there can be conflict.
Correct.
And then, you don't want to be a leader constantly putting out little fires everywhere. You want to establish that foundation, that baseline, so that everybody agrees, we all get along, and we're all working towards the same goal.
I definitely agree with that. I also think it's important when you have a multi-generational workforce as it relates to developing leadership skills is create mentoring opportunities. Not only for you to be a mentor, but for others to be mentors as well.
Right.
So as you continue to develop yourself as a leader, spend some time developing 2 or 3 people to become mentors as well.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I do agree with that because it's really important to know as a leader that you cannot, especially as your organization grows, you will not be able to have that personal touch with everybody. And let's say your team grows to 100 people. You may not be able to meet with 100 people, so you have to have managers or mini versions of yourself so you can push the work down. And it's like, hey, you are now me. Do things as I would do it and put your, spin on it without doing any harm, and then lead these people well, and then check back in with me. So, yeah, creating mentoring opportunities. And it also talks about how one would get promoted in, your organization. Correct.
Now, I think it's very important to know as a leader, to me, it's very important that you create more leaders. And that's, to me, that's just the basic of leadership is to create more leaders.
Absolutely.
And once again, as I have said on previous videos, and I'll continue to say it in future videos, leaders create leaders. And if those leaders create leaders and those leaders creating leaders, then that would definitely influence worldwide change.
Absolutely.
Which is a very huge goal that we have here at Atlas Leadership Academy. We want to influence worldwide change. We want to create worldwide change with just great leadership, So as we continue to dive through these leadership topics, I want you to take these back to your organization, implement some of these principles, and then come back to the videos and write a comment. Send us an email.
Yeah.
Let us know exactly how those things work. The last point to...
The effective methods of developing leadership skills.
Yes, the last point to the effective method of developing leadership skills is to make sure you just treat everyone the same.
All right, now let's talk about that. Treating everyone the same. So, what if you can't?
Treating everyone the same?
What do you mean by treating everyone the same?
I mean, how can you not?
Well, you can treat everyone with respect. You can give everyone the courtesy of, being honest, having integrity and things like that. But then there may be sometimes to where, is there, I'm asking you, is there ever a time to where you wouldn't make certain allowances for some people?
It may be situational.
Yeah. Okay.
When I'm talking about treating everyone the same, I'm talking about those basic human principles.
Oh, okay. All right.
Treat
Cool.
everyone with respect. Communicate well with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Set goals and expectations. Be an amazing listener,
Mm-hmm.
and follow up.
Yeah.
You know, so there will be circumstances that you may have to give someone an allowance, or someone may receive an accolade over someone else, and you got to praise someone over someone else. There's a lot of different small situations, but for the most part, I think it's important that you should treat everyone the same,
Mm-hmm.
and you would definitely develop yourself as a leader, because that is literally a skill.
I got
It's treating everyone the same.
Okay.
You know. Now, the last way we are going to lead well and get promoted within our organization is to develop the best strategies for being promoted at all leadership levels. Okay? I'm
Let's talk
referring
about
to the lowest level employee to C-suite executives.
Yes.
To get from that point of being a low-level employee to a C-suite executive, you have to, number one, understand conflict resolution.
Right.
You know.
You have to know how to quote unquote argue effectively.
How do you argue effectively?
Well, really, for me, it's like you first have to understand that this is business and it's not personal.
That's
Like,
called focus.
say what?
That's called focus.
Focus?
Yeah. Understand that this is business and this is not personal. I'm now focused on the actual conflict.
Oh, correct.
And I'm taking my emotions out of it because I understand that this is how we're going to conduct our business, and we have a conflict that we need to address.
Right.
So I understand that it's not an attack on me.
Correct.
You know,
Okay. I got
so-
what you're saying.
That's focus.
Yes.
Focus on the actual problem.
Yes. So yeah, bringing the problem to the forefront and not, bringing any personal things, vendettas, no holding grudges afterwards. It's just business. We're talking about, we all have the same goal as far as like driving business forward, having a meeting of the minds, making things better. So it shouldn't be to where it's just like, I've got an attitude after we leave this meeting because I didn't get my way. Or I'm going to key your car because you said in this meeting, you know what I mean? It
That's
shouldn't be
messed up.
like that's messed up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's messed up. You shouldn't do that.
So understanding that how to fight, fair, fight with facts. I mean, and then making sure that you are, like you said, focusing, actively listening, because sometimes people get in meetings and things like that, and they're listening to respond as opposed to listening to understand.
Right.
And that's where the misunderstandings often happen because they're ready to jump in and jump back, and it shouldn't be like that because, again, the goal is for us to get to the same place. Feedback, effective feedback, making sure that it's, not just, well, I didn't like it. That
Yep.
is the worst kind of feedback you can
That is
get
the
because
worst kind of
nobody will listen to
Feedback
that
ever. I don't like it. Why not? Because
because I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Okay, well, you can take that. I mean, I don't care. But effective feedback is to where it's like, okay, I don't particularly care for this brand of water because, it tastes like it has salt in it. Just making that up. I don't know. And
That's
that,
constructive feedback.
yeah, because that's why personally I don't like it. Somebody else may like it. It's not an attack on them, but that's why I don't like it. So for me, I would want a different brand.
And if I'm the water company, I would want to hear that.
Yes.
You
And
know.
then the water company, and it may be like, oh, if you're the water company, it's like, oh, well, it shouldn't do that. Let me go back and check with my people to make
Yeah.
sure that our filtration system is working.
Sure.
Effective feedback. Reassurance. Letting people know is like, hey, it's okay that, you might have this, feedback, good, bad, negative, or whatever. And thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for helping us make the business better. As long as, it is to make the business better and not, you're just disgruntled and want to be pissed off and just
Right.
say whatever is on your mind. Like there's places for that. But if you're trying to help build the business, vent after hours and then get your mind right, then come back with an effective list to your leader or whatever, and then talk about, the real things that can really help the business from your point of view.
Right.
Following up is another one to where,
This is the part that a lot of people miss the mark.
I know,
Follow up.
yes, to go back and check and see,
Go
like,
back and
hey,
check and see if the problem's solved.
yes, if the problem is solved, is the problem, resolved? What else can be done, or even volunteer to assist? What can I do to help, move this forward? Like, even if this isn't in
Right.
your job description,
All great points.
what
great
can I do to
points.
help? So,
I actually think we probably should do a small video just on conflict resolution in itself, because it's a huge topic.
It's
and just
big.
with those 5 steps to effective conflict resolution, I think that definitely benefit a lot of people.
I agree,
because a lot of leaders do not know how to resolve conflict.
They don't. They sweep things under the rug, and unfortunately, that's how things build up.
Right.
It's like, and that's how cycles repeat, because a lot of conflicts or things that are going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Is the same thing that went wrong 6 months ago with a different scenario, but the baseline or the root cause is the same. So let's just say something went wrong with the website. This is just an example. This has not happened. So let's say something went wrong with the website, and then it was because somebody didn't communicate effectively to the web provider. Nobody says anything. Then a few months later, something goes wrong with let's just say the light company. Same person didn't communicate effectively to make sure that, hey, we need to, I don't know, whatever, and the lights went out.
Right.
The power bill wasn't paid, so the lights are out. But the root is they didn't communicate effectively. So instead of sweeping things under the rug, you need to address it as that. Again, going back to our conflict resolution, it is not personal, it is business. Hey, so-and-so, this happened because you didn't communicate effectively. So now let's work on our communication skills. We can, if you don't know how to communicate, there's tons of things, resources and methods and whatnot that can be used to help build that person, because maybe it's just an area of weakness.
Correct.
Maybe they forgot. Maybe it needs to be, a task that's passed to someone else.
Yep.
Whatever. But, getting to that root cause can stop a lot of things later on, because people might just see the problem, which is just a symptom, but what's the root of the problem?
Right.
And that's how you stop the boulder effect.
Makes sense. You make some excellent points. And I can't even go beyond what you have said, but you made some excellent points. But I think we are going to do another video on conflict resolution.
I think that would be a
Probably
great
should
one.
do that. Yeah. Now, another strategy for being promoted at all leadership levels is to understand personality types.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people in this world, and we're all individually different. We all individually have different names, different personalities. We like different things. Mm-hmm. Everything about every single person is different. We're so unique as humans.
Yes. Yes, we are.
So it's important to understand all personality types and understand who it is that you're working with. And by understanding those personality types, you can understand how to get ahead as a leader. Mm-hmm. Because you would then understand how to lead those people.
That's right.
And what they would need.
You understand how to lead those people, and you understand how to effectively position those people to succeed themselves.
Correct. There's 2 ways you can understand someone's personality. Mm-hmm. In my experience over the years, I have used a DISC assessment, and I have used a Myers-Briggs personality type indicator.
Mm-hmm. I have used that as well.
Now, the DISC assessment is probably the most famous worldwide.
It is.
Because I think that's the one that most people know. We know that the DISC assessment, it analyzes dominance, influence, steadiness, and what's the C? I hate saying that word.
Conscientiousness.
Conscientiousness, right. Now, typically within a DISC assessment, you're going to have 2 different personality types to determine what that person's personality really is. Mm-hmm. Me, myself, I know I am a D and a strong I. Mm-hmm. I'm totally aware of that by myself. Okay. Now, with the Myers-Briggs personality test, it has 4 other areas that you're going to measure.
Right.
Number 1 is going to be an introvert versus an extrovert. Mm-hmm. It's going to talk about sensory information versus interpretation. Right. Like how you receive information.
Feeling versus judging.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to talk about logic decision making versus a situational decision maker.
Yeah.
And then they talk about making judgments versus remaining open.
Right.
And I think if you use both of those 2 tests to understand the people you work around, and as a leader, if you want to do that with your team, have a personality test, they have a lot of resources online. There is. That you can conduct these tests within your team. Or you can contact us and we can come to your organization and do a personality test with your team.
Absolutely. I think that would be the better choice. Let us know.
Of course. Now, the last strategy for getting promoted within your organization at all levels is to understand time management.
It's a big deal.
I think that's very like me personally. A lot of people hear time management and they say, "Oh, that's pretty simple," but
right?
so many people get it wrong.
Totally.
The first step to effective time management is prioritizing tasks. Number one. After you prioritize your tasks, it's important that you communicate your goals and the expectations to the actual workforce, right? Then it's even more important to stay organized.
Yes.
Right? And I think the most important is to limit non-productive tasks. What do you have to say about time management?
It is one of those things to where it can be a runaway thing, you know, but it is really, really important to, especially as an effective leader, to make sure that you are managing your time well, because how can you expect anyone that is following you to manage their time well? You know what I mean? You have to lead by example. Prioritizing tasks is also very important, because you don't want to put something that's supposed to be up here down here, and it's the last thing that gets done when it's supposed to be the first thing that gets done. Communication of goals is also really important, because that rallies the troops. It helps keep them in the know, helps keep them confident about the part that they play in the task that is being prioritized. Expectations of when this needs to be done, which is really a really big thing. I work in marketing, so deadlines are really important, especially if you are sending things out to print, because you've got to give the printer time, then you've got to give shipping time and things like that. So time management is a really, really huge thing, for me, and then I'm sure for everyone else as well, and as well as being organized. You can't get anywhere if you don't know where anything is.
Facts.
And then non-productive tasks, I'm not big on like chit chat.
Yeah.
And it's important to, stop and, talk and relate and, have like that touchy-feely moment. But for me, I'm just like, I got to get work done. I'm going to sit down and, do my mountain of work. But at the same time, you've got to have a balance in that, because you don't want people to think you are standoffish or whatever. It's important to, again, manage the time. Spend 10 minutes talking to people, letting them get to know you, and then go do your work.
Understood. I think the biggest offender of poor time management is entrepreneurs. To tell you the truth.
Oh, really? Because they don't have a clock to punch.
Correct.
And then it's like, where did my day go?
Correct. It's the hardest thing to manage as an entrepreneur is like effective time management skills. As we wrap up, we're talking about how to lead well within your organization and get promoted. If you'd like to know more about our offerings, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Atlas Leadership Academy. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can also click the notification bell for updates. Join us next week as we continue to dive more into leadership topics and help you become a better leader. If you'd like to have the show notes, please go to our bio. Talk to you soon.